Today on the program, Audi still doesn't know how to properly name its cars. Renault is presenting an R4 as a beach-style version. Kia wants to create a car for the gamer generation. And we'll take a look at the disaster of the French eco-tax. At Audi, after the e-tron lineup, here comes the Q9 apparently. Audi's marketing managers are unaware of the existence of the French language. But let's move on. Before introducing you to the biggest SUV ever designed by the brand, we first need to remember the Audi A8. This large executive sedan, this flagship that used to transport CEOs and ministers with the discretion of a Swiss safe, is gone. And to replace it, Audi didn't hold back. After flooding us with electric SUVs, the four-ring brand decided to return to the basics of craftsmanship. It's not just a big Q7, no, the Q9 is a monster. We're talking about a machine that should easily exceed 5.2 meters in length. But why such a giant? Because the world has changed, sedans are over. Today, if you're rich, you want to dominate the road from a rolling fortress, and Audi understands that perfectly. This Q9, which will be officially unveiled on July 29th, is primarily designed for the American and Middle Eastern markets, but it will also arrive here and in Europe. And to prevent the French eco-tax from costing you the price of a small country house, Audi had the good idea to equip it with a plug-in hybrid powertrain, not 100% electric. On the agenda, they're keeping real engines, probably V6 and V8S, to tow this Versailles palace on wheels. And let's talk about this palace because it's inside where the Q9 reveals its true nature. Forget about glossy black plastic. Audi has decided to go for absolute refinement with open pore wood, carbon fiber, microfiber, and even leather. The cabin is a true ode to laziness. You won't even need to touch the door handles anymore. For the first time at Audi, the doors open and close electrically with a simple press of a button, via your phone, or even by pressing the brake pedal. In the back, you have the choice between 7 seats as standard, or, if you really dislike your kids and prefer to travel with your business partners, a 6-seat configuration with 2 real business class seats in the center, heated, ventilated, massaging, and adjustable in every way. Above your heads, there's a huge panoramic roof of 1.5 square meters. No cheap roller blind here. The glass is electrically dimmed by segments, blocking 99.5% of UV rays. In short, this Q9 is a machine designed for those who think the world is too small for them. It should cost a mere 110,000 euros as a base price, and probably much more once you've checked all the essential options. Meanwhile, while the R5 is selling like hotcakes on a Sunday morning, the R4 is sulking. The numbers are harsh. At the beginning of 2025, 3 times as many R5s were sold as R4s. So what does a manufacturer do when its new model struggles to find an audience? They make a fuss, they make noise, they release concept cars, and the latest one is the Renault 4 JP44 concept. Visually, it's an unlikely cross between a golf cart and an 80s buggy. Renault tells us it's a tribute to the 1969 R4 Plein Air, one of which recently sold for nearly 100,000 euros at auction, which proves that nostalgia makes people crazy, and that it's also a tribute to the 1981 JP4 modified by the Breton company car system. The result is a pearl emerald green R4 without side windows, without a rear window, and with a roof so open that it only serves to hold a surfboard. The doors have been replaced by tiny flaps reminiscent of the Twizy, and at the back, the tailgate lowers like on a pickup. Inside, it's an explosion of orange, with mummy seats straight out of the 70s. And the height of absurdity for a beach car, a skateboard stored in the trunk, because everyone knows skateboard wheels love sand. But don't be fooled, behind this toy-like look, the real innovation of this JP44 isn't its lack of a roof, it's what's under the floor. Renault has added a second electric motor on the rear axle. This R4 is a true 4-wheel drive with a ground clearance raised by 15 mm wider tracks and big Goodyear tires. It's designed for off-roading, and that's where the real R4 spirit lies. Renault will probably never produce this beach buggy, but what Renault is telling us with this concept is the imminent arrival of all-wheel drive on the production R4. The question is whether that will be enough to boost or even start sales. Turning a small urban SUV with a polarizing design into a true electric 4x4 is a bold idea, but it could further reduce an already unremarkable range and drive up a price that's already not cheap. In the end, this JP44 concept is fascinating, it's fun, it's colorful, it makes you want to head to Biarritz, but it's still unclear whether adding a rear motor will be enough to convince buyers to choose this R4, which is still finding its identity, over the R5. Next, let's talk about a brand that, not so long ago, made cars you would only buy if you had given up on all joy in life. I'm talking, of course, about Kia. But times have changed. Today, Kia makes electric SUVs with razor-sharp designs, like the EV6 or the huge EV9.
Et pourtant, au milieu de cette...
In this sea of raised family vehicles, Kia is preparing something very surprising, a sedan. Do you remember the Kia Stinger, that fantastic V6 sedan that proved the Koreans could do just as well, if not better, than the Germans when it comes to grand touring? Unfortunately, it disappeared, a victim of the SUV trend and pollution regulations. But Karim Habib, the head of design at Kia, decided he didn't want to give up on the idea of a high-performance sedan, and that's how the Vision Meta Turismo was born. Recently unveiled at Milan Design Week to celebrate the brand's 80th anniversary, this car is what Kia calls a sports sedan for the gamer generation. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, forget about the twin-turbo V6, the Vision Meta Turismo will be electric. But unlike their sister brand Hyundai, which is a fan of fake engine noises and fake gear shifts, Kia rejects these gimmicks. Josh and Payson, the head of interior design, said it very clearly: young buyers, the so-called gamer generation, don't care at all about the sound of a V8. They didn't grow up with the smell of gasoline and the roar of exhausts. What excites them is technology, design, and user experience. So Kia wants to create a genuine emotional connection without resorting to sound gimmicks for nostalgic people. Visually, the Vision Meta Turismo is a real stunner. It fits into the brand's new design language, pompously called Opposite United Evolution. It's a fastback with sharp, almost cybernetic lines that looks like it came straight out of a futuristic video game. Inside its absolute minimalism, Kia wants to turn functionality into an aesthetic. Gone are the overflowing screens. Instead, the cabin is clean and designed like an ultra-technological lounge. But be careful. Don't rush to your Kia dealer tomorrow morning. Karim Habib admitted that the project is currently slowed down by a very down-to-earth reality: the cost. Developing a very high-performance electric car on a dedicated platform costs a fortune, so Kia is waiting for production costs to go down, to wait for battery prices to fall and the luxury EV market to consolidate before starting production. However, a fastback version is already 90% ready for production, which proves that the project is serious. By the way, let me know your thoughts in the comments about the Vision Meta Turismo. And finally, a recent study conducted by Karoom compared car taxes in the 27 countries of the European Union, and the result is clear. France has become a fiscal madhouse. The maximum penalty has gone from 2,600 euros in 2008 to 80,000 euros today. That's a 31-fold increase. And don't think this only affects millionaires driving Ferraris. Even a modest Peugeot 208, the car of Mr. Everyman, gets hit with a 230 euro penalty. Even worse, a Peugeot 5008 plug-in hybrid made in France gets slapped with a 6,100 euro weight penalty. But the most absurd thing about all this is that it doesn't even work for the environment. Take Germany, for example. They don't have any purchase penalties. CO2 emissions have dropped almost as much as ours. Why? Because according to Karoom, what reduces emissions isn't punitive taxes, it's infrastructure. Countries that pollute the least, such as the Netherlands and Denmark, have charging stations installed everywhere. And the consequences are disastrous. The French car market is in ruins, new car sales have dropped again, and the state is losing billions in uncollected VAT. All that just to recover $1 billion in penalties. And in the meantime, what are the French doing? Well, they're rushing to the used car market. Today, more than 3 used cars are sold for every new one. The average age of the car fleet is over 11 years. People keep their old, allegedly polluting cars because they can't afford new ones. The ecological effect is exactly the opposite of what was intended. And here is the height of absurdity highlighted by the Karoom study. A Porsche 911 GT3 RS, which drives an average of 3,250 km per year, emits 1,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide over the year, while a Peugeot 208 PureTech driving 12,000 km per year emits 1,400 kilograms. The GT3 RS actually pollutes 28% less, but it pays 348 times more in penalties. But the worst part is what the state does with that money, or rather what it doesn't do with it. Since January 1st, 2020, the revenue from the ecological malus no longer funds the transition to electric vehicles. It goes directly into the state's general budget. And to top it all off, the Climate and Resilience Law of 2021 states that starting in 2028, any advertisement for a vehicle emitting more than 123 grams of CO2 per kilometer will be banned on television, radio, in the press, on the internet, on social media, everywhere. Specifically, the Nissan Qashqai, the Volkswagen T-Roc, the Citroën C3 Aircross, and many others, cars you see on every street, in every parking lot, in every French household, will be banned from advertising. France is the only country in the EU to have passed such a law. In short, the French penalty is no longer an environmental measure. It's a mindless money-making machine that destroys the industry, makes drivers poorer, ages the car fleet, crushes our dreams, kills passion, and on top of that, doesn't fund any charging stations. Thank you all for watching this new video. Don't hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. See you